for sure.
Probably. We move then into the judges' chamber, which we've seen over the course of, I think, 2 or 3 seasons. So this was just a redress of this round table and having people at the table. And I think Graham so kindly printing out at the last minute nameplates.
That's right.
That was the last minute. Like, they should have nameplates. And it was like, oh, okay. And then like, okay, so then we need 6 matching nameplate things. Like, all of a sudden, sure, I'll just run to the nameplate store and go get some.
But I have to say, though, that shot is really nice. I think it's that one that you're seeing right now, and they kind of come down into it, and you see the reflections of the names in the table.
Yeah.
I like the nameplate.
It was such a nice thing to see.
Really good call. Yeah.
Well, I didn't make the call, but we got him there.
Very good.
Yeah, reflections on table can always go either way. Either it's too shiny, or it's too dull, or it's not the right wood tone, or it's scratched. So you never know. You never know what you're gonna get. Yeah.
I thought it looked really good.
Me too.
And I think this is maybe farewell to this. Oh, I think it comes up one more time. But this was a fun set. I mean, I think the best part of this set ever is the giant locks that you guys built to put on the
the portal.
The portals.
The Janet lock.
Yes.
And then that was real. Those were practical, or basically that was not a CGI thing that they put in. Those were practical. Those were awesome. Yep. The life stick, what are they called?
We manufactured those things. I think, Gay, you had ordered what were those things called?
Low jack.
Low jack?
The club. The club.
The club, right. You had ordered a couple of versions of the club, and then we decided that we were going to manufacture these giant versions of the club to put across those doors. And we did, and it worked.
Oh, that's what it was, the club.
Sculpted? Were they sculpted?
Sculpted and constructed. Yeah, so we did both. We had parts of them CNC'd, and then we had parts of them that construction had actually built.
So they're practical.
Oh, absolutely. So if you need to ever lock up a 9-foot circular door, you can go to the NBC warehouse and find a giant club. Actually, but it wasn't called the club. It was called
the Janet lock.
The Janet lock, yes.
The Janet.
And there's Adam Rowe.
Adam Rowe's joining us.
Hello,
Adam.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Are you at the Redwood Forest yet, or are they at the end?
No.
Ooh,
So we're just at Judge's Chamber, and we're going into Nick's wing dump, right? 2242 Baramies later.
Yeah.
So this was a location somewhere in the valley.
Coincidentally was in the LA Times last week because a crime happened in front of Nick's wing dump. I'm not kidding. I could find it.
Oh my God! Please send me that.
I think I took a screen capture of it because I was like, oh, of course.
That's perfect. And none of the aging is from us. Let's just put it that way.
That's correct. There were 14 inches of grease.
Yeah.
All over that place.
And so you did the floor plan of like a bed in the middle of the room.
What was it before? A wing dump?
Basically. It was a burger shack.
Yeah, I think it's just a
right.
burger place, right? Yeah. So this, I mean...
And they were open every time that we went to scout there. And I think even when we started to prep there until that, like, the one Saturday... they were closed for us, and that was it, or Sunday, or whatever day we had prepped there.
I mean,
it was disgusting.
It was not good. Everything was sticky. And then just finding like, okay, will they fit in a queen bed, or do you want a full bed? Like, because we had such a limited space to put like a bed and a night tables, and unfortunately, you don't really see a lot of it, but. We scrunched it all in there.
There were things that couldn't be moved out of there. We couldn't move the ATM. We couldn't.
Yeah,
There were,
the ATM was a problem.
It's hilarious. Come on.
some of the
I
banquettes
started
couldn't
laughing
move.
when I saw that next to his bed. That's so funny.
And I also like that they kept the light low in there, kind of. So it was like, it hasn't opened yet. It's kind of low. But, yeah.
And I think part of that was just from we covered every square inch of glass with graphics because we couldn't see outside because it sits right on a main street. And there was so much traffic outside that we couldn't see any of that.
That's right. You covered like every window with...
Yeah, everything had to be covered.
Everything was covered, yeah.
And
With Graham Magic that never got featured.
well,
Yeah,
it did. It did a lot
the
on
menu
Twitter. The menu really went viral, I feel like.
Oh, the menu got seen? Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, it's right behind their heads.
It comes up in the next time when they have dinner in there, but there was so much talk about like, oh, what, like, I don't know what examples you have, but it was like people loved it on Twitter. I'll tell you that.
And there were callbacks to parks in there with the child size.
Yes, the child size, yeah.
Drink, and I feel like that was pretty funny.
And that's all you, right, Graham? I mean,
There are two menus of sauces, and the writers came up with one of the menus, but then we decided we needed another one, and so I came up with the other one. The tricky part is at this point I can't remember which is which, but,
I think that
everything is mine except for the sauces. One of the sauces was the writers.
I think the idea of the giant soda came out of Gay or Kim, one of you saying it in a production meeting. I remember
It's
we were
probably
like,
Gay.
oh, we need the giant soda. And that's when and maybe Graham, you put it on there too, but I remember there was a conversation about like, what else can we get from Park and Rec into the final episode?
well,
And
I'm
there's
sure it was Gay.
definitely
I don't think it was me.
I don't know. It was a year ago. I don't know.
I have no idea. I know.
Hey, talk about that spaghetti. You worked hard on. I think you.
We're
spent
not
more
there
time
yet,
on-
Adam. God
Oh,
damn it.
sorry.
We're on the field. Now talk about your field. Now you did this big logo. We have clearance to just use the Jaguars. I mean, you just spray
We did get
painted this
clearance.
big thing.
we had clearance for a lot of that stuff because of Bortles. They had gone through and they were trying to actually shoot at the stadium and trying to get him to us. And I mean, there were so many
Right.
things that had sort of transpired to make that happen. And then as it turned out, they couldn't get there because there was a game that day. I don't know, something crazy.
Wasn't he
And
taking it
so
though,
we
right
had to create that field in the courtyard where we've had so many parties and the pit that opened up.
Yeah, the
and
gathering where the welcome sign is when all of the people arrive to the good place. That's actually this part of the ground.
That's right. And we just painted it to be a football field with the Jaguars logo.
Yeah. And one gaming chair and it's dressed, bro.
That's right.
Gaming
That's
chair,
right.
too, right?
I think you're seeing in the shot you currently have, that is the back lot. And then they obviously use stock footage to fill in the rest. But I remember Neatnoggle had Morgan put goggles on to like figure out what time of day they were going to be. They were doing like a digital, site survey. And that's how they figured out. I mean, it sounds silly, but I remember, did you want him standing on the teeth or did you want the Jaguar looking away from him? Like we had that conversation.
Right. And how much were you going to recognize how close you were? How, would you recognize that they were in the center of the field?
Wow.
Because football fields are massive spaces. And when you're standing on top of a logo like that, it's just kind of a blur of colors.
I think you guys overthunk it.
No, we did. We nailed it. Look at this Emmy Award-winning football insert.
That's right.
Yeah, I see what
There
you
it is.
mean.
Look at that.
I see what you mean.
Good.
Yeah, I see what you mean. All right, I'll give it to you. Yeah. All right, well, good job. And then here comes the spaghetti. So now we're back to Nick's wing dump. We've set up a beautiful tablescape, Gay. One of our finest, I think.
One of the finest. Yeah.
I mean, out of all the parties you two have done,
I have to say, I literally went to Kmart to shop this set because I feel like he would think like I better go to Kmart. You know what I mean? Like he wouldn't even go to Bed Bath. He went to Kmart.
You had plastic plates, didn't you?
I did. I had a version. Yeah, those are like the Cornell or whatever. The like it never breaks type thing. Yeah, the sheets, the everything. I shopped the whole thing from Kmart, thinking like, no, this is where he would think like this is good shit.
But not
I remember we had a discussion too about the candelabra, and that's his version of fancy was
absolutely
to
have a candelabra there, which is the most ridiculous thing to have on that little tiny table.
Yeah. You get a better look here of the graphics, and I think on the widescreen when you're actually watching it, it's better than my computer right now. But I think that's where people really read your menus.
The freeze frame and dug through.
Yeah,
that was fun.
I gotta look.
It took a long time because there's so many graphics, but it was a lot of fun. I'm trying to think what else there was. Like the kids' meal had the kid-sized drink. There was also
the shakes. Dynamite.
The shakes, and you could add a firecracker to a bucket of wings. Whatever we could come up with.
Graham, you had just designed that just a few episodes earlier, even though it had been talked about forever.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the stupid Nick, because it was at his funeral. There was a bucket, I think, at his funeral.
We'd always thought we'd had that graphic already because of the talk, but it was like when we started, I was like, wait a minute, we never made this before. It was always the other one.
Ugly Nick's meat
trench.
Yeah.
That was a surprise. Like, how did that never make that? And then, so that must have been fun, Graham. It was such a great graphic.
Yeah, it was fun because you get to go so over the top with that.
You could see some of your window graphics back there too now. Like every window has graphics on it so that they could shoot this and not be annoyed by, I guess, traffic or the real life LA where this is not supposed to be. So.
Well, and also that was our only staging area for all of the working trucks.
Oh, right. All our trucks and everything are right outside that window.
Yeah.
And I think
giveaway.
I think the spaghetti prop almost broke you.
Did because I didn't comprehend what he wanted. I had an image in my head about what he wanted, and I thought, I can do that super quick. I know what he wants. No, it wasn't. My third spaghetti eyes. My third one.
I think the first one you brought in something that you took a bite out of, right? Because he makes reference to, I took a bite out of this. And
it was
I remember you came to the meeting.
Yeah. And he's like, no, I want it really. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. But as I got the second one, he goes, we're so close. Now if you can make like spaghetti come out of it, and I want to see the sauce on the outside. I'm like, So that was fun, making a mold for that. I used one of those rocks, those hollow rocks from Jackson Shrub, the fake ones.
Yeah.
I poured the solution in there and hardened it in the spaghetti and chemicals all over the stage. It was fun.
Well, I think you nailed it. Third time's a charm. It's super awkward. It reads as spaghetti. And, and he took I don't think they show him taking a bite of it, but...
He just says that I took a bite and it was really awful.
Really bad.
Yeah. Well, you got it, and it's...
Should have farmed that one out. And I would have if I knew what he was talking about to begin with, I would have, but I ran out of time. But got there.
Time and money. We go through another green door, and now we're back into our original backlot of the Good Place.
Original-ish.
So you guys restored all of the signage that you had hidden away safely, I'm sure.
Some had to be remade.
Yeah. And then this takes them right into Jason's party because he's going to leave. So the party is up in our little train station area, and I can't even count how many parties we've had to do, Gay. But this one was sort of like
Jeremy bury me.
Yes. If Jason's throwing a party and thinks that it's supposed to be nice. Like, what is it? And it's like, I went really low key, and then they were like, no, maybe we should have some tablecloths. Like, I went like, I think at first I was like, I don't know, barrels, but then I don't know. I got it together. The biggest thing about this scene is Gay's food and the big stage that you guys had to put into the little backlot.
Yeah, and I mean, there was also Graham. You had to get Gay a bunch of the wing buckets, which you see there as well. Yeah, and of course, any stage I think that ever went into the backlot up there, the ground is so uneven
because fake cobblestones,
cobblestone on top of it, and it was always a leveling nightmare for whoever was up there doing something.
Well, and on the ankles.
I mean, we also had huge lighting concerns of like basically the Stones were playing. They had so many lights up there to like light these performances and everything. We did string lights and the lighting but yeah, that was not easy. And I think it was like 100 degrees to put all that stuff in the backlot that day too.
Yeah, it would have been August. And this is about the time when I walked over to the rehearsal to see that they had like 5 times the amount of dancers as they said they were going to, if I remember correctly. And this is when I ran to Patrick and was like, we need to push everything back because they're going to run out into the audience. Like, I remember walking into the soundstage going, holy cow, look at all those. Well, they said 7 or 8.
That's right. Because we had taped out a space for them of what we knew the stage would be in one of the rehearsal halls, in our lunchroom, in fact. And I think that's where you walked into, and it was like oh my God,
choreographers were great.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot more stage.
Well, just one of those things that last minute happens, and then we adjust. That's all. No sweat on us. We're fine. After
I do love the couches too, though. I have to say, like the mismatched corduroy couches that ended up in there.
Yeah, and the it's like comfortable but gross.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I was shopping those. That's what I was looking for. Comfortable but kind of gross.
Jason's version of nice.
Yeah, exactly. And Gay, they went past your spread so fast, but you had a gigantic spread of food there also, and like hamburgers and onion rings, and oh my God, you had so much food there.
Yeah, something to represent everybody. We had the shrimp and obviously the chicken for the bucket. Yeah, that was the last shot of the night. That was always fun to do the food, the big food display, the last shot of the night.